You thought I would be late. Probably, probably quite a few of you. You were like, "Oh, Spectre's gonna be late. Oh no!" And here I am. I'm on time. That's right. In the past couple of days, I've been doing a bunch of gaming streams. Been late to those, but here I am. This stream, I'm on time, ladies and gentlemen. I am on frickin' time, and I am being blinded by the just light mode for everything I'm looking at today. God damn. Just just a goddamn, right? Just there's no winning. There's no winning. Your local ASVAB waiver is here. Your local ASVAB waiver is looking to talk about some military stuff because you saw a fucking video today from a guy who is, a veteran himself, and he's talking about the military pay, and it's like he gets so much stuff wrong because he's falling into the same traps that people who haven't served are falling into, right? He's falling into those things, and you're sitting there going, okay, what the fuck? As a veteran myself, as somebody who's looked into these things, it really annoys me when I see these things. So I was like, screw it. I was going to stream today. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to do some news. I kind of wanted to go over the latest filing of the Nick Rekieta lawsuit, but I think we'll hold off on that for now. I want to talk about this. I want to kind of mix and match what I talk about on this channel, because all I've been talking about really is legal things, like going over legal paperwork and just doing really nothing else. I mean, I had that that one, I think it's one drama stream with we've done a couple of drama streams actually. We've done Fair and Balanced, we've done two of those. We did one on Sparky and the whole pedo shielding thing, or the child rapist shielding thing. But this one, I want this one to be a little different. We'll go into something that I know a little bit about, a little bit. And so three main topics I have are arguably the largest fraudster who engaged in stolen valor. She's going to prison, 70 months, so just over 5 years. Then we've got CBO, a Congressional Budgeting Office report saying, hey, if we want to curb the what's it called? The deficit, because the deficit is going to be really bad. We should think about raising TRICARE pricing and cut veterans' disability benefits. And the reaction from some veterans on social media, content creators and the like. What did the VA secretary, the Veterans Administration secretary, have to say about that? We'll go into his response. And we also have a reaction video, which I'm not exactly a fan of doing it, but this is the video I was talking about earlier, where the guy was saying, hey, we're gonna talk about the pay for troops and how the Army doesn't pay enough for E1 to E3 and stuff like that, and that's why we have poor retention and stuff like that, which isn't true, but we'll get into it. So let's just get right into it. So let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. I want to make sure I'm sharing my screen. All right. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. So, first story is about Sarah Kavanaugh, a Rhode Island woman who engaged in stolen valor, stole money from charities, the VA, from a bunch of them. And she was like persona non grata. She was the biggest piece of shit for basically anybody who deals with the military. If you dealt with the VA, you heard about Sarah Kavanaugh. If you were a content creator who was doing anything about the military, you talked about Sarah Kavanaugh. Obviously, I didn't, but Donut Operator, I think, talked about her. Eli Double Tap talked about her. Certainly, Sergeant High, Angry Cops, and Angry Drill Sergeant, he talked about her. He was livid, and rightfully so. So this is the press release. Obviously, I am a couple of weeks late to this, but as I said, this wasn't something I was going to cover. I wasn't going to cover this, but we're going to. So, Rhode Island woman sentenced to federal prison for falsifying military service, false use of military medals, identity theft, and fraudulently collecting more than $250,000 in veterans benefits and charitable contributions. Um, so right off the bat, not looking too good for her. Let's go with this. A little easier to read at that point. I think it's a little easier for you guys to see it at this point. So on March 14th, the Department of Justice for the District of Rhode Island, and that's one person. That's it. That's all that's in that office. Put out this release. A Rhode Island woman who never served in the U.S. military but perpetrated a massive fraud scheme by falsely masquerading as a Purple Heart and Bronze Star decorated United States Marine who claimed to have been wounded by an IED in Iraq and to have developed service-related cancer was sentenced today to nearly 6 years in federal prison, announced United States Attorney Zachary Kuna. I'm not going to say exactly what she said because I don't recall off the top of my head, but I believe she tried to make the allegation that her service-related cancer was related specifically to like burn pits in Iraq. This is something that's been a huge shit show. It's like OIF's version of Agent Orange or Gulf War syndrome. The burn pits were causing cancer and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that's what she claimed, but in reality, we'll go over it. So, Sarah Jane Kavanaugh, 32, whose near daily criminal conduct over a period of 5 years is described in court documents as being, quote, among the most reprehensible seen in this district from a fraud defendant, end quote. She defrauded veterans organizations, veterans charities, friends, and co-workers in a methodical and calculated manner. I spoke to 3 charities. 2 of them I worked directly with, one not so much. One of them did get contacted by her, and they called bullshit on her from day one, they said. I haven't seen anything, but I'm going to take them at their word because they haven't lied about anything that I know of. The second one said that they were never contacted by her. Third one said they were never contacted by her. So, as far as I know, she's never defrauded any of the charities I work with. She tried to. She failed because one of the guys who's on their staff actually, like, for 10 years after he got out, actually dealt with VA document gathering and stuff. So he was able to go through it and figure it out. Kavanaugh previously admitted to a federal judge that while employed as a civilian by the Department of Veterans Affairs at the Rhode Island VA Medical Center, a role in which she was supposed to help and support military veterans, she used her position to misappropriate veterans' identities, their combat experiences, their diagnosis of illnesses, and their valor to devise schemes to enrich herself by using the stolen information to obtain more than $250,000 in cash, charitable donations, and services reserved for injured veterans. So she was basically going in super violating HIPAA. I'm talking holy goddamn shit. She actually took what these people, like, she had copies of their medical records from what I remember, and she would just refer to that, or she'd like white out something, like white out the name and put the name that she was using and claim that as hers. She would do shit like that in veterans charities and whatnot, because when they see disabled veteran, they tend to be, combat disabled veteran. They will bend over backwards for pretty much everybody. Pretty much every swinging dick, they will bend over backwards because that's how we tend to be. Veterans tend to be that way, and charities tend to be run by veterans. So it's kind of the same thing. And she, like, one of the things that, because I asked one of the charities, and I was like, they were like, yeah, we would have caught her right off the bat because she was claiming to be infantry at a time when women were not in the infantry in the military. So that would have been like, okay, there's a red flag. No, that ain't happening. Sarah Kavanaugh's conduct in the course of her scheme is nothing short of appalling, remarked U.S. Attorney Kuna. By brazenly laying claim to the honor, service, and sacrifice of real veterans, this defendant preyed on the charity and decency of others for her own shameless financial gain. We refer to this as a sociopath, by the way. I am grateful that with today's sentence, she has been brought to justice and will face the consequences of her actions. Today's sentencing sends a strong message to those who would represent themselves as something they're not in order to profit from the kindness and respect shown to our nation's deserving veterans, said Special Agent in Charge Christopher Algieri of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of the Inspector General's Northeast Field Office. Just call him IG Northeast. Seriously, why do you have this giant title? Why? The military loves acronyms. For fuck's sake, use an acronym. The VAOIG, well, thank you. Thanks to the United States Attorney's Office and our law enforcement partners for their efforts in bringing this defendant to justice. Individuals who falsely represent themselves as decorated veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces degrades the service of the men and women who selflessly serve our country, said Patrick J. Hagerty, special agent in charge of the Defense Criminal Investigative Service. Defense CIS is basically the Department of Defense Criminal Investigative Service. Every service itself has a version of this. We're not talking NCIS. We're talking like an actual criminal investigative division. They do this. And then Department of Defense has their own as well. VA has one, etc. Profiting from such an egregious scheme is an affront to the U.S. military's longstanding tradition of honoring and awarding, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Ms. Kavanaugh deserves to be held fully accountable for falsely claiming to be wounded Marine veteran as part of a reprehensible scheme to collect more than $250,000 of veterans benefits and charitable contributions that would have been directed to real veterans in need, says Special Agent Mike West of the NCIS Northeast Field, blah, blah, blah. I think she was claiming to be like a staff sergeant with like less than 8 years service, which isn't unheard of. Usually it's in like a specialty. I know the band, they kind of promote relatively quickly. I mean, for fuck's sake, you go into the president's own, right? You go into the president's own and you get staff sergeant right off the bat. You don't go through. Now you're not in a command position. Like you'll have staff sergeant rockers and all that, but you're like, you have, instead of like cross rifles, you have like a lyre, like a musical lyre. And you don't have any actual command authority. I mean, people stop to respect you as a staff sergeant, but you have no actual command authority. She feigned having cancer, falsely claimed valor where there was none, to gain hundreds of thousands of dollars in benefits. FBI Boston Division. Court documents detail Ms. Kavanaugh's repugnant criminal activity, falsely purporting to be a combat injured veteran, allowed her to gain introduction to and acceptance by friends, charities, businesses, and organizations whom she then exploited and or defrauded. 9 veterans charities combined to fund Kavanaugh's travel to retreats, in-home care, gym memberships, physical therapy, paying electricity bills, and provided donated gift cards for use in obtaining groceries and other essentials. That isn't exactly uncommon. A lot of veterans charities do have, like, they buy cards, like gift cards to supermarkets and stuff like that, that they, you know, you go to them and say, hey, I need help for a week. They'll give you like $100 gift cards. Veteran services down here, I think all the veteran services officers have gift cards on hand just in case you need help for a week. Veteran services being the Massachusetts state kind of Veterans Affairs. It's not the national VA. Kevin also used false documentation to fraudulently obtain months of paid leave from 2 federal employee benefit programs based on her cancer claims, which I'm trying to understand how federal employees weren't catching on to this, right? Do you have copies of the DD-214? Volunteering at a VA medical center, I had to have copies of my DD-214 that they then compared to what's in Kansas City, fucking Missouri. And they didn't do it with this bitch? Like, she's claiming to be a staff sergeant. It's like, we should probably look into that. Nah, we're fine. Which is really just goes to show how little fucking shits the VA medical gives about troops. VA Medical has had huge issues over the past decade, 2 decades. They've had huge issues with wait times, with saying that they schedule people for things and then, not informing them, but saying that they were just no call, no shows, stuff like that. You would have that happen all the fucking time. It was such an issue during what was it, 2013, 2014, something like that. It was huge. Bernie Sanders, who's chairing the Veterans Administration, right? Veterans Administration Subcommittee. is sitting there telling us, oh, we're doing a great job. We're doing a great job, everybody. And they're not. And the reason for it is they don't give a shit. It's all about making money for the higher ups. We're going to make it look like we are fully exceeding everything that is expected of us so that we get bonuses. And that's exactly what was happening. Bonuses were being given out for things that weren't being met. You had veterans who would literally die in the clinic. You had one guy, I think it was down in Phoenix, Arizona, who lit himself on fucking fire in front of the VA medical center because the hospital didn't give a shit about him. They had been lying about him and whatnot, made national news, and people lost jobs over that. And apparently, setting yourself on fire is how you get people to fucking listen to you. Okay. Oh, fucking K. People do it. Like, never expect veterans to just sit there and take things lying down. We don't. A lot of us will do stupid stuff to make our point. I do whimsical and trollish things. I don't do anything, I don't think I would do anything like set myself on fire. But at the end of the day, I haven't dealt with what a lot of these veterans have been dealing with from VA medical. It just doesn't happen. I haven't had to deal with it. I go in for the occasional, I'm a test subject right now for a medication that kind of going back into the military where I'm a guinea pig again, which is fine because it seems to be working. I'm good with that. I'm great with that. I'm getting better, and it's good. Even more brazenly, Kavanaugh exploited her purported experiences to assume leadership roles in the veteran community, including as commander of a VFW post in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, gave public speeches while dressed in full U.S. Marine uniform, complete with a Purple Heart and Bronze Star that she purchased on the internet. Yes, you can purchase medals and ribbons online. I haven't had to do it. I can go through the PX and get everything I need if I have to do it. Let's see. I think it's like the only ones I can't get at the local PX are like Marine specific ones, but I have like a NAM and that's it. NAM and my I didn't get caught ribbon are the only two that if I had to, I'd have to probably go to the next right like web store and purchase it that way. I don't know. I haven't had to purchase them. Point is I have them set aside. Okay. But yeah, you purchase pretty much anything. I think the only ones you can't, my nose is really itchy and I don't know why. But the only ones I haven't had to, or the only ones you can't get, as far as I know, are the service crosses, the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, the Air Force, and Army medals that are equivalent to the Navy Cross. I don't remember what they are. And maybe the Silver Star. I don't know. I think because the Silver Star is one for valor. You only get that for acts of valor in a combat situation. So I think you can't legally purchase that. But I don't have any of them, so don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure though. I don't wear my uniform except when I have to. When something warrants it, I will wear my uniform. But other than that, no. Let's see. Secure spot in an arts program at the University of Southern California, a program she described to a U.S. Army veteran she met through the Wounded Warrior program. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Wounded Warrior Project, which is a shit charity. Do not donate to them. They are garbage. Who was later accepted into the program. In a letter to the court, the Army veteran faulted Kavanaugh for taking a spot in the program from another veteran who could have participated in the program and ultimately may not have committed suicide. I'm not sure if that's supposed to just be like hyperbole. Somebody may have gotten in, but they, when they were told you're not getting in, they may have committed suicide. God, my nose is really itchy. Like, am I allergic to something? I don't know, but it's like, Jesus Christ. I'm going to be scratching my nose all fucking stream. This is going to be great. It's not stopping. I think it's an allergy. I don't know to what, but I think it's an allergy. So basically, she defrauded charities, the VA, and colleges out of at least, $284,796 and 82 cents. And she also has to they also have to take away from her 261 hours of federal employee paid leave time they donated to her. So, you only get so many hours of sick leave, of paid sick leave. And sometimes you'll see this happen in many companies as well, where they'll put up a note by the time clock or wherever you clock in rather, where they say, oh, somebody needs to take some time off because they're sick. If anybody will donate some time, let HR know. That's what looks like happened here. So people donated their sick time to her out of the goodness of their fucking hearts, and they're going to get that time back. So Kavanaugh will, that's part of the fraud, right? That's part of the fraud. And she's also got 70 fucking months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. So that's what she is. She has to pay back $284,796, which she cannot discharge through bankruptcy. She's likely going to be paying that for the rest of her fucking life, because any job that would probably pay her decently is going to look her up, be like, holy shit, and not hire her. She's going to be, at least after she finishes with her probation or parole, she's going to have at least 10 years where she's going to be working nothing but Mick jobs. Right? She's not going to be able to start a business, because the minute she does, people will look up Sarah Kavanaugh and be like, oh, she was convicted of fraud. I sure as shit am not like, I'm not, no, nope, not taking that. Not taking that at all. I'm not risking that. She was convicted of fraud. She pled guilty to fraud. That's no, we don't want to risk that. So there you go. That is the largest what's it called? The largest stolen valor fraud conviction that I know of. I believe it's like the largest ever, but I could be wrong. I know it's the largest in the Northeast. Lost Bullet says maybe she can start an immigration agency. Don't need to be truthful for that. Yeah, that's true. You don't have to be. All right, so we got that. And fuck this bitch. Fuck this bitch for legitimately screwing over other injured people, other wounded and disabled veterans with her bullshit. Fuck this bitch. There is nothing I can say that won't get me banned from YouTube that is strong enough for this bitch. Nothing. 250, almost $300,000 she took from charities and the VA. I'd be like, no, I'm done. No. So, get that out of the way. Second thing, CBO. Well, veterans and content creators are losing their fucking minds because the government's looking at cutting disability payments. No, they weren't. And this came up last week or the week before. I know, let me see. When did this Sergeant High do this? Angry cops. Oh, doesn't even show up like. God damn it. Decoded opened 12 days ago. Angry Cops did a video about it, and it's hyperbole. It's a lot of. I like Sergeant High. I really do. I love the guy. I love his content, but it's definitely outrage bait that he was sucked into and he propagated. So the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, this comes from military.com. Okay, it's military.com. And it says CBO suggests raising TRICARE fees, cutting veteran benefits to slash deficit. This is from January 14th, and the CBO report came out in December 2022. So this, all this started making the rounds a couple of weeks ago in March. So it's, much like Sparky getting outraged over shit and responding to shit months after it's been, months after it was a thing. With the federal deficit expected to top 1 trillion this year, that's a lot of money. That's 1,000 billions. The Congressional Budget Office in December published a list of options for reducing the imbalance over the next 10 years, including 3 suggestions on TRICARE and 6 that address veterans' benefits. Now, TRICARE is the health care for troops who get out of the military. It takes care of dependents and stuff like that. It's much like private healthcare. It's used at specifically the VA. But you can, ever set for the past couple of years, you've been able to go to private hospitals for like emergency stuff, or if the VA won't send you to a specialist, or they can't send you to a specialist in the VA marketplace, they will send you to somebody outside and they will pay for it. TRICARE is supposed to kind of, so the VA is not paying for literally everything. TRICARE is more or less the VA's healthcare system, right? Healthcare insurance. In its options for reducing the deficit 2019 to 2028, the CBO laid out 121 opportunities for curtailing spending and raising revenue. These include raising TRICARE enrollment fees. That comes up every time, and they probably should. Honestly, they probably should. Not by much, but they probably should increase it. That's whatever. For military retirees, instituting enrollment fees for TRICARE for life and reducing veterans' benefits. The publication marks the 4th time in 5 years. The CBO suggested raising TRICARE enrollment fees for working age retirees, meaning you do 20 years, you get out at 38, you retire from the military at 38. Retirement in the United States is pretty much 65. It's about 62 to 65. So you still have almost 30 years, 25 to 30 years where you can still work. You're getting a pension from the military for doing 20 years. The VA is now paying you disability, possibly. You've got VA medical care, stuff like that. You get a lot of benefits for doing 20 years. So the VA does pay a lot for this stuff. Don't get me wrong. The VA pays a lot for benefits. A lot. Maybe they should look at things like the TRICARE for life. Disability should never have been on the table. And we're going to get into that. The CBO suggested that increasing TRICARE enrollment fees for working age retirees, those under age 65, could help slash the deficit by $12.6 billion. Now, keep in mind that this is $1 trillion this year alone. This is $12.6 billion over 10 years. Over 10 years, we'd save about $1 billion $1 billion of a year, roughly. So we would save 1/1000th of the deficit every year. 1/1000th of this year's deficit, that is. Because there's no telling what the deficit next year will be. The deficit the year after will be. That's 1 year. 1/1000th. Maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe if we stop sending money to Ukraine, sending $14 billion to Ukraine. That's in 1 year. Maybe if we didn't do that, stopping $14 billion sounds a lot better than stopping $1 billion. I'm just saying. I'm just Brain Housing Group, ASVAB waiver is engaging his Brain Housing Group and going, maybe. To obtain this, it said the Defense Department should more than double annual enrollment fees for individuals and families enrolled in TRICARE Prime and institute annual fees of $485 for an individual, which means that every year you would pay $500 and $970 for a family for TRICARE Select. Most working age retirees currently pay no enrollment fees for TRICARE Select. CBO also suggested instituting enrollment fees for TRICARE for Life, the program that serves as supplemental coverage for military retirees on Medicare. So retirees who have Medicare, they get TRICARE for Life. There's no enrollment fee for that. I'm assuming because a lot of them are going to be disabled. So analysts estimated that the Defense Department could save $12 billion between 2021 and 2028 if it adopted annual enrollment fees of $485 for an individual or $970, blah, blah, blah. According to CBO analysts, these options would reduce the financial burden of TRICARE for Life to the DoD in two ways. It would cut the government's share by the amount of fees collected, and indirectly would save money by causing some patients to forego TRICARE for Life altogether, either by buying a private Medicare supplement or simply going without one. So basically, many of these people on TRICARE for Life who are on Medicare, they are disabled, one reason or another, and they're saying, hey, we should just kick them off. Force them to pay for a Medicare supplement or go without one and tell them to fuck off. That won't fly. Always wanting to cut the benefits of the little guy who sacrificed and send that money to their buddies like Zelensky. Yeah. Isn't that fucking weird how that works out? I'm going to really quickly, I'm going to bring this over here. Isn't that weird how that works out? Excuse me. I apologize for nothing. I had to sneeze. Another option would be to introduce minimum out-of-pocket requirements for those using TRICARE for Life. In this proposal, TRICARE for Life would not cover any of the $750 of cost-sharing payments under Medicare and would cover just 50% of the next $7,000. Retired Navy Captain Catherine Beasley, Director of Government Relations for Health Issues at the Military Officers Association of America, said her organization is concerned that the CBO continues to include healthcare rate hikes for military retirees in its list of options because it's options. The CBO provides options. They have always provided options. Okay, let me make this very clear to everybody. In U.S. politics, there are two third rails that'll never be touched. They'll be played up. They'll be talked about, but they'll never be touched. The first one is a more left wing. It's Social Security. And we constantly hear Democrats say how they want more money put into Social Security and to give more money out. They want to make Social Security disability stupidly easy to get, just to give you an idea. My therapist, actually my psychologist, but my psychologist, I also have a therapist, but my psychologist said it's very easy right now to get people onto SSDI, Social Security Disability, for depression. You have depression, just say you can't work. Your psychologist will probably make sure that you get on that. That's how easy it is, according to her. I don't know. I don't deal with it. But, you get onto that, Social Security Disability for that, and you're getting $1,300 a month. I think it's $1,300. What's SSDI? SSDI payment. The average is $1,483 per month. And the maximum, I guess, is $3,600. So, yeah. Yeah, that's that's a thing. CBO does this every year. Our biggest concern is that some of these options would make their way into the president's budget, Beasley said. With all the changes to the military healthcare system in the past year, we think we simply need to stabilize TRICARE. It's been a lot to absorb. Well, yeah, people always have these recommendations on how to fix things, but they never work out. It's kind of like communism. True communism has never been attempted, despite literally this list of countries that have been communist, and none of them have worked. But true communism hasn't been tried out. Likewise, when it comes to veterans' benefits like healthcare and whatnot, we have all these plans on how to make healthcare better, and none of them work. Even the Nordic countries are moving away from kind of a centralized healthcare, a government-run healthcare, and transition to private. In Canada, the public healthcare, the socialized healthcare, is garbage. Private healthcare is what you do. There are politicians in Canada who hop the border to the United States to get treatment for their issues because the waiting lines are so long. Same thing with England. England has stupidly long lines for the most basic care because of socialized healthcare. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And I don't think there's an easy way to tackle any of this, but they're not asking me, which is a good thing. I don't really care. I don't care right now. According to the CBO, the Department of Veterans Affairs also presents several opportunities for cost-saving measures. Some suggestions in the CBO assessment include narrowing eligibility for disability compensation for 7 diseases that the GAO has said are not caused or aggravated by military service, including arteriosclerotic, that has the word erotic in it, heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, Crohn's, hemorrhoids. I don't know. Have you dealt with a lot of privates, PFCs, Lance Corporals? They cause hemorrhoids. Many of them are hemorrhoids. They're fucking retarded. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of them are retarded. I'm not one of them. I'm one of them. Multiple sclerosis, osteoarthritis, and uterine fibroids. I don't even know what that is, but it has to do with the uterus, and I don't have one of those because I'm a man. I will never be a woman. This option would save $33 billion over 10 years. So disability compensation is kind of an interesting thing where, how do you put this? It doesn't have to have been caused by the military. It has to be something that was exacerbated by your military service. It is something that has to be exacerbated. It doesn't have to be caused by. Now, if it's caused by it, you're definitely getting disability for it. But hemorrhoids is something that can be exacerbated. The constant stress you're under. Hemorrhoids are constant stress causes hemorrhoids, causes ulcers. Pulmonary disease, heart diseases can be caused by the stress of your time in service, especially over the past 20 years when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq, when we had constant deployments for troops. You think they weren't under stress for 7 months, 14 months, 18 months at a time? Combat stress is the name of the game. That's just how it is. Ending the VA's individual unemployment payments to disabled veterans when they turn 67. The retirement age for receiving full Social Security benefits, which would save an estimated $48 billion. I don't know about the unemployability payments. I've never looked into them. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to comment on that. Reducing disability benefits to veterans older than 67 who are receiving Social Security payments. That's right. Let me pull it up. Let me pull this up. So VA disability rates. So in the VA, I think it's this. Okay, so this is I don't need to talk to a veterans crisis line counselor. Okay, so this is what the veterans disability compensation looks like. So Veterans disability, there are some things that are automatic, and it's really interesting and weird how it works out. So, one of the things, for example, is I used to work in a motor pool. I did a couple of years as a truck driver. Spectrum disability is not the physical type; it is 100% mental. I am fucking retarded. That's not service connected though. So, like I used to work in a motor pool. Now, if you work in a motor pool as part of your job, for example, motor T or you're a tanker, LAV, striker, stuff like that. I think it's more than a year. You automatically rate 10% disability because it's assumed that you're going to lose your hearing. There's going to be some hearing loss, especially since most of the time in a motor pool, you're not wearing ear protection. Lord knows I didn't. Um, I never saw anybody. Like the only time I ever saw people wear it was like in the shop when they were going under a Humvee or something where they had to use like something motorized, like an electric tool. Then they might, but that was like safety. They'd have a hard hat and shit like that on. But like out in the motor pool itself, we never did. Crayon related injuries are not service related. No, that's just not eating your crayons properly. So you have stuff like that. You have tinnitus. Tinnitus is a huge thing for veterans. I have tinnitus. It's the flat like if I am laying down, I swear to God, it's so bad. If I'm laying down without something like white noise, it sounds like the constant flashbang effect, the sound from Call of Duty. I'm dead serious. And that's 10%. My back issue, I get 10% for that because that is service connected. I get 20% disability. I could rate 30%. I choose not to because you can do that. So, um, but these are the payments you get for your disability rating, and this is all untaxed. So 10% is 165, 20 is 327. When you get to like 30% more, so veteran alone, veteran alone 508, 731, 1,000, 1,300 for 60% disability, and then you get to 70%. And 70 to 100 is kind of interesting because above 70%, it's assumed you're going to have a significant hardship in getting meaningful gainful employment. They're assuming you'll work at something like as a greeter at Walmart at that point because maybe you lost a leg or maybe you lost an arm. You're not going to be going out there and being the assumption being you're not going to be going out there and working on Wall Street or something, which makes no fucking sense. One of the guys I know, he lost a leg in Iraq and he's a trial attorney. He's actually a really competent trial attorney. He makes a lot, but he rates what's disability uh, ability for missing leg. His is right below the knee. Uh, the complete amputation is 100%. He doesn't get 100%. I think he gets 70%. I never actually asked, but I would assume that just below the knee or right below the knee would be 70%. Amputation, loss of use. Man, I love that. That I go to check out that law firm and I can't scroll down. An amputation of the leg below the knee is generally rated as 40% disabling, and above the knee is 60%. So he gets about 40 to 50%. Which 50%, 50% is still $1,000 a month. Yeah. So, but that's kind of how it is. Then 100%, it's assumed you will never be gainfully employed, and that's $3,600 untaxed. Now you can still make money, you can still work a job at 100% disability. Because I think there's two scales. I think there's like employable, which this might be what it is. I can't remember the terminology. Cannot remember the terminology. But if you're somebody who needs constant care, I think you get a lot more. I think it's like 5, 6,000, something like that. I don't fucking know. Something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's on top of you getting free medical essentially. You have access to, the VA will take care. Like if you have a wheelchair, they can pay for a wheelchair accessible van for you. They can do that stair lift thing. They can come in, they can pay for a stair, that fucking thing that goes along the wall, brings you up and down the stairs. They'll pay for stuff like that. And basically things to make your home wheelchair or disability accessible. They'll take care of that. So this is on top of all of that, or that's all on top of the base pay that you're getting. Me being retarded, I'm not getting anything paid for except, base disability. So anyways, as I was saying, there's two third rails when it comes to American politics. One is Social Security. Social Security, the Democrats are always talking about how they want to spend more money on Social Security because all the old people, well, they vote Democrat and shit like that, especially after they die. After they die, they're definitely voting Democrat. But in Republicans coming and go, we want to restructure it so that it's more feasible. Because let's be honest here, when I hit 65, I'm not going to have access to Social Security. That's pretty much a guarantee at this point. I'm probably not. Social Security pays out more than it takes in. Always has. That's why I laugh when the baby boomers and shit like that are like, oh, well, I need more money for my Social Security. And I just need more and more. And you need to make the young kids, they need to pay more into it to take care of me. Fuck you. Would you just keel over? Anyways, I'm probably not going to see it. I'm paying into something I'm not going to get any use out of. We're pretty certain of that. That's why pensions, 401k, stuff like that, of course, those are starting to die off too. Thanks, Biden. All right. And then on the right, you have veterans, because a lot of veterans make up the conservative voting bloc. Just how it is. But the interesting thing is that Democrats also don't want to touch it, because there's enough veterans in every district that if you go, we're going to cut your benefits, congratulations, you just made sure that you will never be fucking voted in office. There are enough veterans to make sure that you're not voted in, especially in Texas, the deep South, especially in areas that have military bases, major military bases. You're not getting in there. You're not getting back in, ladies and gentlemen. You ain't getting the fuck back in. You're gonna do it. So people were losing their fucking minds over this. And again, this came out in December, and people lose their minds now. They're not going to. Okay. They could also raise revenue by including VA disability payments as taxable income. That sure shit ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Let's see. If just veterans rated 20% or less paid tax on their disability compensation, federal revenue would increase by $4 billion. Not really, because then we'd all pretty much get that back at the end of the year. So, not really. Unless you're going to say you're going to pay taxes on this, and by the way, you can't claim it on your taxes to get a fucking payment back. That would be some bullshit. So that was what he came out with. And then reporters asked the VA secretary a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, are you going to cut disability pay for the VA for wealthier vets? Because they kind of wanted to tier it, kind of like what they did with the Trump bucks, where up to a certain amount you would get the $600, and then if you were, over that, they would taper it off, and up until a certain amount, and then you get nothing. And he straight up just said, no, that ain't happening. So just to cover this, right? We think it's a bad idea and we're not going to do it. You have my commitment that we won't do it, McDonough said during a press conference with reporters in Washington, D.C. Again, VA benefits, especially disability, is a third rail in politics. Veterans are never going to allow it to happen. Military is really not going to allow it to happen. So, ain't going to happen. There you go. And of course, the outrage mob, there are people who are outraged over what the fuck ever. Then Washington Post did a fucking editorial a couple of days ago, basically saying, hey, we should probably nuke disability pay. And they got absolutely dragged because Washington Post is really stupid, dumber than the New York fucking Times. And I know that in and of itself is pretty fucking impressive to hear. They're dumber than the New York Times, and they are. So we'll read over this, and then we'll move over to the main story, which is a response to this guy. And we'll get into it. So America must keep faith with its military veterans. We owe the greatest debt. Let me just, there we go. Debt to those who risk their lives to keep us free. But the promises America has made to the women and men who have served in uniform are due for review. The budget for the Department of Veterans Affairs has grown at a dramatic pace since 9/11, from roughly $45 billion in 2001 to more than $300 billion this year. Yes. It's almost like 20 fucking years of war has led to needing to put more money into the Veterans Administration because PTSD or tinnitus or hearing loss or people losing fucking limbs to IEDs. 20 years of war has led to this. Not just that. The post 9/11 GI Bill has also raised the amount of money that the VA is paying out. Post 9/11 GI Bill takes care of tuition, but also pays you a housing allowance for every month that you're going to school, subject to prorating for, say you don't start class until like September 7th. You would only get a prorated BAH for the 7th to the 30th of that month. Some colleges were actually kind of getting around it. The VA reps would put in, say, oh yeah, it starts on the 1st, or if it's the 1st is on a Saturday, they'd say, oh, it starts on the 31st of August, and that's how they would get around it. But other than that, it's a great idea. I like the post 9/11 GI Bill. How is in the ever? It definitely has increased the amount of money that's being spent, which isn't a bad thing. A lot of troops who were using the Montgomery GI Bill were quitting college because they had to work full time as well as go through classes. That's why the 9/11 GI Bill exists. The Bush administration, one of the few good things they did, they saw that this was happening. They came out and they fixed it. Now, there were, first draft was good. Then they had to go back and fix a couple of things, like adding that prorating concept, because previously it was if you had one day of school in a month, you got the full BAH. But the promise of America is made. Oh, excuse me, I just read that. Many factors contribute. I just had a stroke. Many factors contribute to the sharp rise in veteran spending. The aging of post 9/11 veterans, numerous enhancements made by Congress to existing benefits programs, and a more muscular outreach by the department to alert veterans to the care and benefits on offer. In addition, the veterans of Iraq, Afghanistan, and other post 9/11 conflicts have higher disability rates compared with all veterans, a result of improved battlefield medicine and broader understanding of the array of service-connected injuries and disabilities. If we owe our veterans every support, we also owe them a measure of fiscal responsibility. Today, we offer suggestions about how to carefully prune the department's kudzu-like spending growth. Amazing that the Washington Post says we owe them fiscal responsibility. We need to make sure that we are fiscally responsible, that our government's fiscally responsible. Ignore Social Security and all these other welfare programs that go to people who don't do a fucking thing. And we're talking about like welfare for people who have 5 kids from 5 different fathers and they just don't want to work, right? Don't look at those, but we should look at VA because we owe them fiscal responsibility. No, That doesn't work. The department's budget is composed chiefly of two parts. Roughly half provides healthcare to veterans, yes, and that budget has grown in recent years with inflation uh, in the medical sector and amid a broad bipartisan recognition that VA clinics and hospitals were for too long poorly funded and managed. They weren't poorly funded; they were poorly managed. Again, uh, I would go back to the veteran who lit himself on fire in front of, I believe it was Phoenix, but specifically the Phoenix VA hospital was found to be lying about like the veterans getting stuff that they like specialties, right? Well, we need to send you to have an x-ray done, but we're not going to, but we're going to say we did and that you just didn't show or shit like that. They would do stuff like that. They would falsify records so that the higher ups, the suits, would get their annual bonuses. And then when whistleblowers started coming out, whistleblowers started being fired. Oh, okay. One of the stories, I think it was was it the Eisenhower? Um, the Master Chief of the Eisenhower fired for a duly familiar relationship. I guess he was Command Master Chief. Tyrone blocked him and was relieved by Captain Paul Spadero. Alleged misconduct in the form of an unduly familiar relationship with a subordinate sailor. Sounds like he was fucking her. Anyways, there was a uh, yeah, it's allergies. It's allergies at this point. I can't remember what ship it was, but the CO and XO are both relieved. Um, Basically, what ended up happening is I think it was in 2013, 2014, the CO and XO would get reports of troops on or sailors on shore leave who had fucked up, and they would go out, they'd get underway, and oh, you know what? That's what I can do. So okay, so it was in 2015, this 2014, 2013 area. Uh, what ended up happening is sailors were coming back to ship, and they would get underway, and then the captain calls them up for what's called an article it's not article 11, it's article 15, right? I can't remember. Article 15, yes. uh Article 15 is called a non-judicial punishment. It's not really, it's a weird thing to do. But I won't go into it, but the Article 15 is not a court martial. It doesn't have the same negative ramifications necessarily as a court martial. The punishment that can be given out to you is dependent on the pay grade of the officer giving it out to you. So if you're found guilty at in Article 15, it can be anything from a letter of reprimand to 2 weeks confinement to, on a ship, bread and water for 7 days, stuff like that. You're not generally going to be kicked out unless you have multiple Article 15s within a short amount of time. Then they can point to a pattern of misconduct and say he needs to be separated. Right, right. It's just a piece of paper that goes in your SRB, your service record, that says you did something dumb. Right. It usually doesn't fall. I can't say it doesn't follow you to your next command. It does in some way. Usually there's a note, but people don't really give a shit. You know, you relate to a formation, who gives a shit? That kind of stuff. Anything that they should give a shit about is going to be court-martial material. They'll care at that point. But what ends up happening is they would get underway for 24 hours, and then they would call them up, the sailors up, for what's called captain's mast, which is the Navy and Marine Corps terminology for an Article 15 hearing. Now, in Article 15, you have the right to decline it and demand a trial by court-martial, with an exception. If you are embarked on a ship and that ship has been at sail for at least 24 hours, you no longer have the right to demand a court-martial. It's called the embarkation clause. And the embarkation clause was misused by these officers, the CO and XO, in order to fuck up careers and to reduce discharges, so VA payments, VA benefits wouldn't be given to those sailors. This is at a time when people were complaining the VA was putting out too much money. The VA was complaining about it, saying we need to find cost-cutting measures. And the service chiefs were saying shit too. Now, to his credit, Obama and Biden never told anybody to do this. In fact, Obama directly ordered these guys removed. Obama, in a rare showing of integrity and a rare showing of a president getting directly involved in something regarding the military, relieved them. He was like, 1, 2, 3, rank, I'm relieving you. That generally doesn't happen. And all these veterans ended up having their discharges, if they were discharged, updated to honorable discharges, full benefits. If you were still in, I think whatever happened to you was removed from your your record by presidential or service chief fiat, but it still happened. Shit like that was happening, and that's why the embarkation clause is absolute garbage, by the way. It's absolute fucking garbage. Anyways, so that's kind of an idea of how stuff like that was happening. Preach, so they don't have to pay us, especially Navy Marine Corps. You're correct about all of this. They definitely made him out to be bad when he did do good. Yeah, no. Obama did some good stuff. I stress some. This was one of the few times when I'd be like, yeah, I'm on Team Obama for this one. Let's see. It is the other half, the portion that provides for income and disability payments that lawmakers should scrutinize. Veterans Affairs pays disabled veterans monthly stipends according to the level of service-related injury. Payments rise on a scale of 1 to 100. Wrong, 10 to 100. It's all in increments of 10. There is no, for example, if you have one ear that's shot and, another ear that's fine, it's kind of what I have. It's not 5% disability. That's 10%. If both your ears, you have hearing loss in both ears, that's 10%. If you have tinnitus in both ears, that's another 10%. If you have hearing loss in both, tinnitus in one, that's 20%, not 15%. The ratings were established in 1945 and in many cases have not changed in decades. The ratings have not changed. The amount of money that you get for your disability has gone up. It's based on inflation. It's based on the amount that you get per dollar. It's kind of the same thing with military pay. Military pay goes up every year, and it's related to inflation. There is a minimum for military pay that it has to go up every year. That means payments are generally based on the ability to perform work most needed generations ago, or what the CBO described as manual or physical labor. God damn, these allergies are starting to get to me. Clearing my throat, itching my nose, I'm sneezing, I'm coughing. God damn, I might just die. Be fucking better at this point. The sets needed in jobs available today in an information and service economy are in many cases different from those needed in the months and years after World War II. That's right. Now that we have online jobs, you don't need disability. Disability payments based on those ratings go to veterans tax-free and continue with some exceptions for the entirety of the veteran's life. They can raise or lower your disability rating depending on your um, like medical. They might do periodic medical reviews, stuff like that. It can raise or lower your medical disability. And yeah, for the most part, I think like 99% of cases, the disability payments will be for the entirety of your natural life. Helped by sustained public campaigns and credits for employers in the tax code. Yeah, you get, if you employ veterans, you get your business gets benefits in the tax code. Most veterans return to the civilian workforce after their service and are more likely to be employed today than non-veterans. I mean, this is true. Yeah, if you put on your resume or your CV that you did 4 years in the Army or the Marines or whatever, you tend to go to the top of the pile. Because if you did 4 years, got out with an honorable discharge, not only are you a good tax break for the business, but you show that you're committed, that you, generally speaking, are a hard worker, you have a good work ethic, and you're a net benefit for the company, even though you will probably be a complete asshole and you're not going to take things laying down, especially if you get out of the military, you need a job real quick, you start working at Walmart, they start fucking with you and you're just like, no, fuck you, right? They have to, it's a balance they have to work with. I can tell you, right after I got out, because I had just missed the deadline to start going to college, I applied to Walmart, and Walmart was like looking at me, and they were like, "Yeah, so we'll guarantee you 16 hours a week. I think it was 2 to 11. Yeah, 2 to 11. And I'm going back like 6 years, 6, 7 years. It was 2 to 11. This wasn't right after I got out. No, it wasn't right after I got out. Excuse me. 2 to 11. But any day you're not working between 2 and 11, you have to be on call. You have to be ready to come in if we call you. We're not guaranteeing you those hours, but we're saying that you have to be ready to come in, which basically meant you can't work a second job. And I was like, are you going to pay me? Are you going to pay me anything for those hours I don't work that you tell me I have to be ready to come in? Nope. Picked up my shit, walked right the fuck out. Most unprofessional thing I could have done, according to them. And I was like, you wasted my time. I'm going to tell you to fuck off. But the point is that, companies like that take advantage of you and they have to balance out the fact that you will be a net benefit with the fact that you will probably not take their bullshit laying down like most of their workers will. Okay, that's the entire point of my story. Disabled veterans return to the workforce at nearly the same rate as veterans without disabilities. By contrast, Social Security disability payments go only to those who cannot work. Yes, because Social Security disability payments are pretty much a universal thing. You get them only because you can't work. Disability for veterans is things like service-connected hearing loss, service-connected tinnitus, bad knees because you're a fucking paratrooper and you decided for 10 years you wanted to jump out of fucking airplanes. Stuff like that. The fact that part of the curriculum, part of the near daily workday involves running, physical activities, PT, stuff like that also has issues with the body, right? Knees go bad for troops because we are constantly exercising and stuff like that. That's what it is. It realizes that you have sacrificed for the country. May not have sacrificed your life, may not have sacrificed your limbs, but you sacrificed your health for the country. Disability in this sense is not you've lost a leg or you have some crippling service connected disability, it's you gave up something. You gave up something from your health for the country, to serve your country. And this is the least we can do. That's what it is. Social Security disability is you literally cannot work. Either you're severely depressed or you just want to get your dick cut off, or or you're malingering or whatever. Okay, that's what disability is. If you can still work, you're not going to get disability. You might get SSI, supplemental, and if you're making money, they cut off from that SSI. But Social Security disability, you don't get unless you can't work. Over the next 8 years, excuse me. God damn, I'm about to go find like my Claritin or something like that because like now I've got a frog in my throat. Give me one sec. All right, I cleared out my throat. Hopefully that'll help. I don't think it will, but we'll hope. We can hope. Pray for me. Over the next 8 years, disability payments to veterans and their survivors, yes, your wife gets a pension if you die, are expected to rise by nearly half, from 130 billion a year to 192 billion a year. At the same time, the number of veterans receiving disability payments is expected to rise more modestly, from 5.7 million to 6.3 million, or slightly more than 10% over the same period. Yes, because we've had 20 years of constant war. So pretty much everybody who was deployed in some way, shape, or form has to deal with something that disables them. Whether it's mental or physical, doesn't really matter. 20 years of war does that. Though the Department of Veterans Affairs revises its disability ratings from time to time, Congress should consider a broader modernization of the disability rating system, and lawmakers should consider means testing disability benefits for veterans who are high earners. The CBO estimates limiting payments for veterans who earn more than 170 a year would save 253 billion over the next decade. That's 253 billion over 10 years, not every year. Congress could alternatively tax the benefits because, Democrats are all for taxing literally everything they can. If they could tax you out of your own home, and they try in many areas, they would. They would. Congress could alternatively tax the benefits or some portion of them, particularly for new recipients with high incomes. None of these steps would be politically easy. Proposing and voting for new benefits for veterans have long been among the few policy areas that both Democrats and Republicans support. And that's how you know it's never going to happen, because both Democrats and Republicans are like, yeah, we're not touching this one. Again, it's a third rail of U.S. politics. Veterans benefits, we ain't touching them. We ain't fucking touching them. We also know that the array of benefits offered by VA plays an important role in attracting and retaining the all-volunteer force, especially in an era of low unemployment and rising wages in the civilian sector. No. We have relatively high unemployment right now, and wages may be rising, but so is the cost of living. So weird how that works out. But the moral responsibility Americans have to those who fought for the country is of diminished value if it does not align with the fiscal responsibility Americans have to keep their financial house safe and sound. Well, there are other things to look at, but apparently the Washington Post doesn't want to talk about them. Again, Democrats, leftists. I'll be right back, because I'm going to go find my fucking Claritin, and then we'll get over to the to this. All right, so really quick, pull that over. All right. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I've got it. All right, let's pull over the last thing we're going to talk about. Uh, bop, bop, bop. All right. So the last thing we're going to talk about here. Excuse me. I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second. There we are. All right. So I'm not sharing my screen anymore. That's why. I decided when I stopped my camera, I was gonna turn off the screen share. All right, so we got this going. So this is an individual named Preston Stewart. I was sent this. I was actually tagged um, for this, and basically, um, he's going to give you a take on the on why the army needs to change, especially base pay. So we're going to go into it. I'm going to react to it because he starts off with a really, really bad premise, and I hear it all the fucking time. Uh, so let's get into it. Do I have to? Do I have to? Let me know if you can hear it. I can't remember if I have to press a button for this. Let me know. So let's start. Yes, you guys can hear it, right? Can you guys hear it? Someone, someone, tell me if you can hear it, please. Anybody? You can't hear it. Okay, god dang it. What is it I have to push in order to all we can hear is you sniffling. Well, it's not gonna get any better, trust me. Um God damn it. I think I have to push something, right? Hmm. All right, so let's try this. Share screen. That. Share. Is it that? Nope, it's not that. I hate StreamYard. I don't use StreamYard. So I really have no idea what I'm doing. Um, so I use a StreamYard. Can you tell me why like the sound wouldn't be coming through? You are live. It's not that. Audio, mic, default that. Can you guys really not hear it? Or are you just fucking with me? That's a thing I should ask. Um, Audio, you must click the share audio button. Where the fuck's the share audio button? Like, where's the share audio button? Present. Share screen. Okay, let's try this. Okay, you know what? There. I swear to God, this doesn't work. All right. Let me know if this works.
The average new soldier in the U.S. Army makes around $10 an hour. That's not good enough. If we want to find or retain the best possible soldiers, it starts with pay. So that's what I'm going to talk about first, but I'm also going to present 3 other changes that don't get as much attention, but they should. It's not
Okay,
that
good.
better potential soldiers are all attracted to a job with more pay. It's that higher pay increases the pool of those that are interested at all. So let's say the Army needs 20,000 new soldiers next year, and they're drawing from 200,000 that have shown any level of interest. We're going to end up taking on or about the top 10% of that number. Increasing pay should open up the Army to more folks as a viable path. So let's say that number jumps to 300,000 interested. Now those 20,000 coming in are the top 6%. Better overall, not rocket science. Personal opinion, I think pay is an easy one that we make overly complicated in the military. For example, here, I'm going to use a private first class in the U.S. Army.
Private first class in the U.S. Army is E3. For the Marines, it's E2. So I got the basic pay table pulled up. All right, so he's going to go over this, and I'll respond directly to it when he's done.
So, generally speaking, that's someone pretty early in their military career and at a rank that is well within reach of anyone who enlists. And we're going to use a 2+ year time in service. That'll be important here in a second. Again, vast majority of enlistments are greater than 2 years. So, this is a rank and a time in service realistic to most. So, pulling up the Army pay tables here, which are all online, and I'll link them in the description below if you want to dig into them further. You won't see private first class on this chart. Here we use pay grades: E for enlisted, O for officer, and WO for warrant officer. For most of these, they align 1-to-1. Like in the Army, all O3s are captains. But in some cases, like E8, you'll have both first sergeant and master sergeant. Same pay, different rank and responsibilities. Anyways, using
All right, just to go over what he just said. So when you get to E8, you have master sergeant and first sergeant. Master sergeant in the Marines, at least, master sergeant stays with the MOS. He becomes a specialist. He becomes the professional within that MOS. So, for example, in master sergeant in the infantry will be a specialist for the infantry. He will pretty much only have responsibilities that deal with the infantry. Artillery master sergeant will have responsibilities that deal with the the platoon for artillery. A first sergeant is more administrative and personnel. First sergeants are the ones you see in company offices. They're the senior, for the most part, they're the senior enlisted with at the company level. That's why you have a company first sergeant. It's very rare that you'll have like a company, for the Marines at least, a company master gunnery sergeant. You will never have a company sergeant major. I know my first command, we had a company master gunnery sergeant E9. He was the ops chief, I think. I think he was the ops chief. Great guy. Love the guy. He was funny as fuck. But what he's saying is, even though you will have 2 ranks at this pay grade, at the EA pay grade, they still get paid the same. They just have different responsibilities. That's all he's saying. So I just want to clear that up.
the chart, you can see that an E3 with more than 2 years in service is making $2,402 pre-tax per month for base pay. Now it's time for some comparisons. Someone making $10 an hour working 4.
Okay. So when I did my math for this, by the way, I fucked up. So I came over to here. This is the table. I was stupid. and said E1 more than 2 years, and I based my math off of that 1917. I fucked up. And not based off of the 2402. I messed up on my math because I can't read well. But the point of the matter is that he's going to use this. This is the base pay. Everybody knows this. Everybody goes online and looks it up. This is a universal pay chart for your for the services. This is a universal pay chart. Everybody knows it. Okay. And let's see. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
40-hour weeks will pull in $1,600 in a 4-week month, and someone making $15 an hour is at $2,400 per month. So,
okay, so just going back really quickly, working a 40-hour week, yes, you will get $600 a week pre-tax, assuming a 40-hour work week. Now he's going to go into this, but we very rarely do a 40-hour work week. You are lucky if you have a 60-hour work week, because it's not just 9 to 5. You have PT, you have field exercises, we have to stay late to take care of shit because the CG is coming down to inspect shit. You'll have stuff like that. A 60-hour work week, not uncommon. In fact, I would argue it's probably the most common thing that happens is a 60-hour work week. I remember having to do 80-hour work weeks a month straight when I was in E3 because I took over a section that had previously had a shitbag staff sergeant, and he let everything go to hell for 6 months because he was getting the fuck out. He didn't care. And when I came in, my NCOs knew me to be squared away, knew me to actually know what I'm doing, to be anally retentive, to hate chaos, and to be very, very kind of I like to make sure things were squared away, shall we say. And so I got suckered into that. And it was supposed to be a 2-month thing. We just need to put somebody there because we have no other NCOs we can put there. And then it ended up being an 8-month thing, almost 8 months, which is fine. It's good. No more pay or anything. I didn't get more pay. Didn't really have any benefits other than I was in charge of that. I think there was one field exercise I didn't have to go on, which is great because that week sucked for everybody. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm sitting in my workspace. I'm fine. I get to go home at the end of the day. That was pretty cool. But I remember that that month straight of 80-hour work weeks. And God, did that fucking suck. I was actually sleeping in the office. I wasn't going anywhere. I was like, I had a laptop that could keep me entertained. But yeah.
$400 per month. So a normal job at $15 an hour equals the same pay as going through basic, getting yelled at, waking up early, and working well over 40-hour weeks. The Army's going to be a hard sell with that data. I mean, if we're being honest, most soldiers put in north of 60 hours per week if we average it out over the course of a year. They're coming in, around 6 a.m., maybe get an hour for lunch, and go home around 5 p.m. every day. That's 10-hour days, 5 days a week, plus the pretty regular night and weekend responsibilities.
6 o'clock, maybe if it's in the winter. I know that during the summers, we were usually outside by 5 o'clock in the morning. That was for PT. So, working 12 hours wasn't unheard of during the summer, especially in Okinawa. Okinawa, we didn't want a PT in the fucking afternoon or anything like that. It's gonna suck. It's humid as shit. No matter what time of the year, but especially during the summer, nobody wanted to be out there. You would go outside at 5 in the fucking morning, and it was so humid during the summer. You'd go in 5 minutes later, and it was like you took a shower. You were just completely streaked with sweat. It was disgusting. So 5 o'clock wasn't unheard of, and we usually got out around 5 in the afternoon. But you usually got like an hour to change over to get breakfast and stuff like that before you had to be at work. So you might PT 5 to 6:30. and then you get like an hour, hour and a half, usually an hour and a half to go to the chow hall, to get dressed, to shit, shower, shave, get into your camis, go to the chow hall, get your food, eat up, then go to work. So it wasn't exactly 12 hours. And you have like 90% of the time, 99% of the time, whatever, you would have an hour off for lunch. So, it's 12 hours, but you'd have 2.5 hours of that, which you weren't actually working. So it's like 9.5 hours. That's not taking into account things like, again, field exercises or extracurricular activities such as humps, humps being forced ruck marches and stuff like that. And usually, if you had a battalion ruck march, it would be a 3-4 hour thing, and then the battalion would go home. That's how it was for us. I don't know about infantry. I'm pretty sure infantry probably would not get that, but I was a pogue, so I didn't really give a shit. But we would, generally speaking, go home after that. And if it was on a Friday, show up at 4 a.m. at the armory, grab your rifle, make sure everything's good to go. 6, maybe 7, depending on if you got gunny timed or not. You step off, you do your march. Usually it's about 5 miles, carrying about 50 pounds on your back. And then you get back, and depending on the time of the day or the season, I guess you could say, you would either have the weekend safety brief right there, wasn't uncommon, and then told to go home, or it would be a hey, go cool down, be in front of the battalion HQ 2 hours later, and your battalion commander is going to give you the safety brief and then send you the fuck out of there. You get the battalion safety brief, and then the company commander's like, yeah, I want to give my safety brief. Go over to the motor pool. That's how it was for us. Our company would go over to the motor pool, and the CO and the first sergeant would do their thing. And then you had the platoon. It's very rare the battalion CO would be like, no, you all aren't doing that. I'm sending them all on the way. You'd have the company safety brief. They have the platoon safety brief. So, this thing that should have been 30 minutes is now 2 hours long because officers like to talk. We like the sound of our own fucking voice. Just how it is. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't know why you guys are watching me. Have you heard my voice? I'm nasally as shit. All right.
And now is a good time to check in on the comments because I'm sure you're going to hear plenty of folks laughing at the 60-hour week figure I'm even using here. There are plenty of units that at times will blow right past that figure. Bottom line, it's not a...
Again, you might have things like field exercises where you're out in the field for a week. You don't go back to the barracks. You are camping. It's like being out in the boonies. You're doing camping for a week. You're doing your exercises, stuff like that. Yes, you are a full fucking week of being out in the boonies, subject to Mother Nature and the Zika carrying mosquitoes, and that is it. Okay. That's how many fucking hours are there in a goddamn fucking week? I can never remember. It's like 124 or some shit like that. I never remember. 7 times 24. 168. Okay, so that's 168 hours. That's an entire work month, and you're out there in the boonies. Whatever. Right? Whatever. Sucks. Just how it is. You know that when you sign up, by the way. Especially, you're on a ship. 7 months, 8 months deployed. You're 168 hours a week. You're on a ship. I mean, you get downtime, but you're not at home.
A 40-hour per week job, and it's not even close. So now if we're trying to break out an hourly wage based on 60-hour weeks, we're back near $10 an hour for a private first class. That was competitive at a time, but not anymore. And I think it changed faster than the Army can keep up. My wife and I run a small business here in Tennessee, and when we opened, average wage for the position we were hiring was $9.50 an hour. We offered $10 and got a bunch of solid applicants, but now 2 years on, we can't get people to even apply for less than $15 an hour. So if money is someone's primary motivator for joining, that's a problem for the Army. It's just too easy to find a comparable salary somewhere else that doesn't come with the added stress and risks. Now, if we really step back and include the total picture, I do personally still think the Army is a good option for the right people.
It's a good option for pretty much any young man or young woman. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself. Plus, there's a lot of benefits for going into the military and getting out with an honorable discharge. You have the benefits. You have the GI Bill. You have possible disability. Not exactly something you want, but you have that possibility of having disability pay. You There's a lot of benefits. You learn self control. You learn discipline. You cultivate a work ethic. Maybe you decide you want to make a career out of it. You want to do 20, 30 years doing this. You do 20 years, you get to retire after 20 years, the age of 38, the ripe old age of 38. And you're getting 50% of your base pay. 20 years. Okay, so let's go over here. That's not it. I want that. Okay. Say 20 years and you make E7. Okay. So an E7 with 20 years, okay, right here. And it's right there. So base pay, $5,473. Your pension at that point at 50%, you get $2,500. That's on top of whatever you make. Is it 50 or 75? I can never remember. Military pension, 20 years. Retired pay. Your retirement benefits determined by your years in service, calculated 2.5 times your highest 36 months of basic pay. Okay, so it's, excuse me, the 36 months of your highest, but for the purposes of this, we'll say E7. Because it's taking into account things such as you get a pay increase every year. Pretty sure it's yeah, okay, it's 50%. Yeah, it is 50%. I couldn't remember if it was 75 or not. And then after 30 years, you get 100%. So 30 years, you get that full amount. Or actually, 30 years for this would be $6,200 a month. I'm pretty sure. Oh, it's 75. Okay, so they did reduce it. I thought it was 100%. Okay, so 30 years you get 75% of that. Point is you're getting several $1,000s in pension. Okay? And you're 38, so you can work a full-time job as well. So you're making far more than if you just worked a job. Okay, that's the point. I can never remember the retirement things. Hold it against me if you want. I don't give a shit. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits for serving in the military. You get priority, right? You get priority on civil service exams. You want to be a cop, you want to be a firefighter, you want to work for your town, you want to work for the state. You get priority for taking those tests. And in many instances, you have additional points put forth over your towards that exam. So it's not just preferential hiring, it's preferential you have a better chance of taking the test and succeeding. Plus, most states, most municipalities take however long you served in the military and they put that towards your retirement. So again, a lot of benefits. Now, of course, the downsides are if you're lucky, 60-hour work weeks, shit job, if you're E1 to E4, probably shit. You get all the shit jobs and it's shit rolls downhill. It's not fun. I'll grant you that. Deployments at a moment's notice, especially if you're a Marine. Marines, if you decide to be a Ranger, you decide to be airborne, your battalion, your regiment is on call. You could be deploying within 48 hours. That's what Rangers and airborne do is they have that. But SEALs and whatnot, they sign up for that. They know what's going on. Marines, we have the same thing, especially if you're in a MEU. If you're in a MEU, you can, at a moment's notice, you could be deployed to the literal ass end of the world. You get no say in it, right? You can't say, no, I don't want to go there. The possibility of being sent to Ukraine is more than enough to dissuade a lot of potential recruits nowadays. I don't know, a lot of, you know, a lot of the idiots who are doing TikToks from where they were stacking up and congregating in Ukraine only to be hit by a Russian rocket because you guys are fucking retarded. This generation is retarded that's coming up. You know, I think nature finds a way is all I'm going to say on that. All right, let's continue.
I mean, that PFC at the 2-year mark has housing, meals, healthcare, and dental all paid for. So while
He touches on that. Remember what he just said. Food, housing, utilities, medical, they are all paid for by the military. But he's still hyper focusing on the base pay because this is all anybody knows about. This is all anybody focuses on. They go and they look up military pay and it comes up with the base pay scale.
$2,402 per month is their take-home pay, there's some pretty big expenses that the Army is taking on. I just don't know that your average 17 to 19-year-old kid are weighing all of that together. When people
No, they absolutely aren't. 17 to 19, they're not taking that into account. They're saying, oh, I can get like, $2,000 a month. Cool. Now, recruiters tell you your housing is taken care of, your food is taken care of, your medical expenses are taken care of, all that is taken care of. But he's still going to go with the base pay and he's going to base what he is saying off of this, right? He's going to base everything he is about to say off that base pay scale, which is not the way to do it. If you want to make your argument, he's trying to argue that we need to increase the base pay while ignoring the fact that all these things are being taken care of by the military. You don't have utilities except internet, cell phone, World of Warcraft subscription. That's what you have, right? Car payments, right? The military doesn't take care of those. But the essentials are taken care of. That's pretty good. The essentials are being taken care of by the military. It's less you have to worry about.
say pay, they're talking about cash in their account. And like I said earlier, when the Army includes all these different benefits and bonuses into the overall compensation, I think we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. Real quick, no, someone should not be spending a career as a private first class. That's an entry-level job. That's why I'm comparing it with entry-level.
I would just like to point out what he just said. We're making it too complicated when we go into these other things. No, if you're going to talk about the pay for the military, you have to take into account these things. You can't just go, we're just going to base it off of the base pay because that's all the average 17 to 19-year-old is looking at. Well, maybe they are. You're a 440,000 subscriber channel, man. You have a chance here to correct the record, and you don't. You make mention of it, but you're still taking everything and coming at it from a bad premise. And that premise is the base pay is all that matters, and we need to increase that. Well, if we're going to increase that, do we then take away from their medical benefits or food or whatever? No, we're not going to do that. As he's saying, this is entry-level positions. $15 an hour for an entry-level position is really good when you consider, the cost of living in North Carolina or Tennessee or Kentucky, right? It is the cost of living there is nothing compared to the cost of living in California or Massachusetts or New York, where the cost of living is stupid. Housing up in Massachusetts, $3,000 is what you get for housing allowance for the post 9/11 GI Bill. Housing allowance around the Boston area was something like $3,000 when I had finally stopped using it. It was around there. So, we'll go into it a bit.
Jobs out in the civilian sector. Moving past these gets kind of complicated. Like, how do you compare a sergeant first class salary to a mid-career position out in the civilian sector? Lots and lots of variation between those two. That portion later in the career gets into making the experience in the Army better, which is what my next few points get to. But let's finish up with pay here. But how do we make this better? I mean, increase pay in line with inflation. Let's start there. Inflation last year was around 8%, while the Army base pay went up 4.6%.
Hold on. Hold on. The base pay went up 4.6%. Okay, let's take into account, if we're going to go with pure percentages, what you see up here is more than 8%. Okay, that's more than 8%. I'm not good at math, but alone, the basic pay raise is 4.6 and the basic allowance for subsistence is 3.4. That in and of itself is 8%. And then you have another 3.9% for the basic allowance for housing, BAH. Okay, so now the question is, why would you increase the pay based on inflation when percentage-wise, and obviously I'm breaking this down Barney style, but that's more than the cost of inflation. Makes you think, doesn't it? You're not paying for food, you're not paying for housing. The military's paying for that for you. So a 4.6 increase to your base pay is actually really good when you consider that. The rate of inflation is taking into account things that the military is already paying for. That sounds really good. Okay, so you're paying a little more for realities and things that you don't need to survive, right? You don't need these things to survive. So why what is the point of raising everything when it's already being done for you?
Solid. But if we're going to compete on pay, I'd argue it should have gone up to 9% to outpace inflation. I'd need an economist to come in and give me all the ins and outs as to why that won't work. But I'll say that this 4.6% bump made the Army less attractive of an option this year. And that's a problem. Next up on the Preston list of things to make the Army better for everyone.
All right, let's talk about this. So let's come over to here. Okay. We're going to come over to here. Let's take the E3. Okay. As I said, I fucked up the math when I talked about this in my response to his video. Math is hard. Reading is hard. When you put the two together, it's impossible for me. But an E3 right here, 2 years, 240210. All right. So we'll take our handy dandy calculator. We'll put 2402.1. Okay. 2402.1. Now, let's say that you're not living on a base. You're living out in town. You get BAH, basic allowance for housing. Now that's dependent on your pay grade as well as the zip code you're living in. So let's go with Fort Bragg. Okay. This is Fort Bragg, Pope and Pope Air Base, North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. An E3 with dependents gets $1,530 for rent. Okay. So we'll put that in there. Excuse me. So plus 1,530? Yeah, 30. And 30. All right. We're already at $3,932 that you're getting. Now, just so we understand this. If you're an E3, you're not living out in town unless you are married. So that's why I said with dependents, I took that and put that there. The average rent in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is where Fort Bragg is, for a one bedroom apartment, it's about $925. So you're coming away, rent alone, $925. We'll say that, okay? $925 for a one bedroom apartment in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is you're still coming away with actually $605 in your pocket. Now, you also take care of utilities, and you have to take, utilities probably going to run you $200-300. I mean, North Carolina, you don't really use a lot of gas for heat. Electricity you probably do for air conditioning. So that'll be dependent on the time of the year. certainly, but we'll say it averages out to about 300. So you're still walking away after utilities and rent, assuming that you go by this, still walking away with roughly $300 in your pocket. That's on top of the $2,400 that you were getting for your base pay. So you're coming away with $2,700. Now, to be fair, that $2,400 is before taxes, so you really have about $2,000. So you have like $2,300. And then you have what's called the basic allowance for subsistence. So the basic allowance for subsistence is food money. All right. It's supposed to take care of food for the service member, not necessarily dependents. I think you get, I'm pretty sure you get more for dependents. I can't remember off the top of my head. Point is this is what it is for troops who decide they're not going to use, say, the chow hall and stuff like that. Enlisted get $452.56. And officers are $311.68. BAS2 shouldn't really matter. BAS2 is just if you are put someplace for you PCS to a place that doesn't have adequate facilities for keeping your food like in a refrigerator or a freezer or stored away, you get more money because of that. They give you 2 times the amount of money because they're going to assume that you're buying food every day rather than maybe making grocery store once a week. Okay. Excuse me. So we'll go with 452.56, 452.56. And E3 is getting $4,500 a month. $4,500 a month, roughly. Okay. Now let's divide that by 4, and then we'll divide it by 60. We'll say 60. Okay. You're making $18.27 roughly per hour, assuming a 60-hour work week. And if we were to and then we come back up, we come up to this. Let's just say divide by 4, and then shits and giggles will say divide by 40. Okay. You're making $27 an hour, right? Obviously, you're never going to have a 40-hour work week in the military. It's not going to happen unless you're Air Force. But the point here is that you are not taking into account these other things that do count towards how much a PFC is making. That was my issue with this guy's video. You are making an assessment based on one thing to the exclusion of everything else. You're not taking into account medical, which that's probably tens of thousands of dollars a year, right? Depending, right? You're not paying into the private health insurance. You've got a BAS, a battalion aid station that you can go to if you stub your fucking toe. You know, if you need a major surgery done, the military pays for it. You get time off, paid time off, which a lot of companies don't do. If you have like my back surgery, I had my second back surgery. They fucked up because the doctor was like, hey, don't pack the wound. And they packed the wound anyways, and it was infected. And I got a month off for it. And that was a month of paid vacation. No company really does something like that. That's also not taking into account that you get 30 days of paid leave. That doesn't count. The convalescent leave, which I had there, did not count towards my annual leave. You get 30 days of leave every fucking year. You get a month of paid leave every year. Show me a company that does that for literally everybody who serves. Sounds really good to me. Sounds really fucking good to me. So my medical's paid for. I get 30 days of paid leave. You know, my housing's taken care of, my utilities are taken care of, my food is taken care of, and you know, sure, I'm only getting as an E3, I'm only getting $2,400 a month. But gosh darn, I'm That's all that's in my pocket. I could live with that. I don't have to worry about budgeting for my utilities or anything like that. Taking this and going base pay, this is what it is. We need to look at this to the exclusion of literally everything else is part of the problem. And this guy's, I think, Army National Guard, Army Reserve, something like that. I've heard, can't tell. I've heard he's a major in 04. I don't know. But if that's the case, it's doubly bad because he knows he has to look past that stuff. 12 years is a major, which 12 years to make 04, that's not unheard of. That 8 to 12 years roughly when you would make 04 for a lot of all the services. But that's $8,600 a month plus, if we were to go over here, we 828,310, and we'll go shits and giggles. We'll go with 04. His basic housing allowance would be $2,200 a month with dependents. So, that's pretty good. But the point is that, he knows better. He should look into these things. He should not exclude things to make a point. You should include them. And again, this is all stuff I'm showing you right now. All references are available. They're publicly available. You can go to the defense travel to look up the housing. Just 02169, I think, is Quincy, right? I think that's Quincy. So post 9/11 GI Bill, if you were using it right now, you'd be getting $4,100, almost $4,200 a fucking month for Boston. God damn. That's for your fucking housing. That's how expensive it is. Again, it's Massachusetts cost of living is stupidly high. Okay, but I'm making the point. Okay, I'm just making the point here. Housing is based on your rank and the zip code. So, but if you were to be stationed in Boston, we really don't have any military bases up here. We have Hanscom over in Lexington. We have Otis, Joint Base Cape Cod, down on Cape Cod. It's really all I can think of, So if you were stationed in the Boston area, $4,200. I mean, what's the average of average rent Boston, Mass? The average apartment rent in Boston was $3,800. So, that's the point is that's on top of everything. Okay, that's again, you're taking something to exclusion of other stuff to make a point, and your point doesn't really stand on its own when you factor in these things. It doesn't matter if it's convoluted. It doesn't matter if it's making things more complicated. It's your job as an officer, okay? As an officer or an NCO, it's your job to take the complicated, the convoluted, and to break it down to its base elements to explain to the troops what's going on. You have to, some critical thinking has to happen. It has to happen. And it's not like this is hard to explain to the troops. Look, I'll explain it now. Yes, you get base pay. Your base pay can be found here. You're getting, okay, Lance Corporal, let's go right here. Okay, E3, more than 2 years, less than 3, you're getting $2,400. Okay, cool. That's before taxes. Fine. You're pulling in probably $2,000 after taxes, $1,800 to $2,000. Okay, but you're not paying for your utilities. You're not paying for your housing. You're not paying for your food. That $1,800, $2,000 go towards your car payments, which don't buy a fucking car around base. They will gouge the shit out of you. Okay. 150% APR is not acceptable. Do not fucking go for it. Anyways, You got that. Stop going to the strip clubs too. Okay. You can use some of this money for the strip club. Fine. Whatever. Don't care. Point is don't do it. You have this. You're not paying for the necessities. All this is stuff you can use on yourself. You can fuck around with it. Boom, there you go. You just broke it down pretty easily, right? And then if you got troops that want to know more and want to understand what's going on, okay, fine. Let's go over to the, defense travel. Let's look, or excuse me, defense finance, DFAS. This is what you would get for food, $453. I could easily live off of that, right? Per month, I could easily live off that. Your housing allowance, this is what you would get to live out in, but would you rather have that, if you don't have dependents, you're getting less, or would you just rather have the Army take care of it, not worry, and you can just go about your day being retarded? I'd rather just go about my day being retarded, not have to worry about it. Less stress on me. And I'm not saying it's like, the fucking Hilton, the barracks suck, the bricks suck, but you're not having to worry about it. They got AC. Sometimes they got heat. More often than not in the summer, which sucks. But these are things that, you don't have to worry about.
Make it easier for soldiers to change jobs. In the Army, we have something called military occupational specialties,
MOS?
or MOS. Infantrymen is 11 Bravo, cannon crew members 13 Bravo, combat medic 68 Whiskey, and so on and so forth. These are specific jobs that new soldiers are trained on right after basic training, and they generally stay doing those jobs their entire career. But here's the problem. You have no idea if you'll actually like that job when you sign your initial contract. The information about these jobs is out there, especially with social media, but it's still a pretty big gamble.
It really is. Recruiters, because they have to drag you in, they have to capture your spirit. They have to really entice you. They give you all the benefits. Hey, you want to be a rifleman? Hey, we're gonna pay you to be a rifleman. We're gonna pay you to shoot people. Hey, we're gonna pay you to be a grunt. Travel all over the world, meet new people, kill them. That kind of stuff. Or the Navy. You want to be a nuclear technician. Oh, well, we'll get you in there. Stuff like that. But they only give you the benefits. I've never once met a recruiter who will give you the negatives unless they're absolutely pushed to put it out there. And usually in order to do that, you have to go, well, I read this on Facebook or something like that, or I read this on the New York Times or shit like that. Then they'll tell you, but they're not going to come out and give it to you, right? He's absolutely right. You don't know if you're actually going to enjoy your MOS. Especially when you're 17 and 19, you're not thinking correctly. You're not thinking properly. You're not probably not going out there doing your own research. You're taking the recruiter at his word. Don't do that. That's just how it is. And yes, it is a bitch to switch your job. It is. It is a bitch. One of the benefits of re-enlisting, 9 times out of 10, is they'll be like, hey, you want a new job? We'll send you to a new school. You can learn to do a new job. That's good to go, right? They'll do stuff like that. But if you're in your first enlistment, you're not getting out of that job unless you fuck up so bad they have to, right? And even if they do that, they're going to send you a shitty job. It's not like oh man, I don't want to, I don't want to do this. I'd rather go in and be a fucking, MP. I'd rather be military police. Nah, bitch, you're going to fucking motor T. You're going to drive a truck. Okay. And that's what you're doing for the next 4 fucking years. Yeah. That one hurts. That one hits a little too close home. Anyways, it is a bitch to do it. But the reason it's so hard in your first enlistment to change your job is because the amount of money the military spends on training. So just to give you an idea, individual training amount, basic and AIT. Let me see. Advanced individual training. I think it was something like $55,000. I want to say like the Army rated it like $55,000 to $74,000, depending on if your basic training and AIT was on the same base or not. So, for example, if you went to basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, and then you were going to go to engineer school, which is also on Fort Leonard Wood, you would get the uh, lower amount. But if you were going to say Fort Leonard Wood and then you had to go to Hunter Liggett out in California, then it would be more. And it only gets worse if you're in a highly specialized training program. So, for example, nuclear technicians for the Navy, the guys who work on the nuclear reactors, on nuclear subs and everything, their training goes through the fucking roof. The amount they pay is through the roof. Pilots, right? Depending, I think it can, like, being a pilot is like millions of dollars, right? To learn to fly one aircraft. And I think you can be current, which means that you can be trained to fly up to a maximum of 3. So that amount just goes further, which means that the military has more incentive to keep you in that fucking job. For example, if you're going to be a helicopter pilot, you might be, for the Army, you might be current in the AH-64 Apache. You might be current in the CH-40, is it the 47? CH-47 Chinook and the UH-60 Blackhawk. You might do that. Then you go in the Marines, and it's like, you're going to be a fast mover. You're going to be a jet pilot. You might be current, although this doesn't really happen. You could be current in the F-18. You could be current also in the F-35, especially since we're transitioning from the 18 to the 35. And then you could also be current in the Harrier. You could be. I don't think jet pilots do that. I think it's only when the service is trying to phase out an aircraft and move to another, they'll pay for the training to transition you to that new aircraft. But for the most part, helicopter pilots kind of tend to be, especially if you're going to the 160th. I think you definitely get to be current in more than one helo type. But point is training is not cheap, and the service wants to get back what it's put into your training. So if they spend $55,000 to send you through an MOS school, they don't want you 3 months later going, yeah, I want to go through another MOS school, right? They don't want to deal with that. They've already spent $55,000 on you. They don't want to be like, yeah, we're going to put you through another $55,000. Obviously, the $55,000 is based on basic training and AIT for the Army. It's not going to be that much if you go through a new MOS school, obviously, but the point still stands. They've already put $55,000 into you. They want to get that back. They don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars more to get you a new job unless that new job is specialized within your MOS. For example, Motor T, you have Dragon, you have what are they called? We call them Dragon Riders or some shit like that, but it's like a kind of a semi thing. They'll send you to the training for that because we always need more of those guys. We need wreckers, right? Well, they'll pay for that because it's a specialty of Motor T. You go into infantry, every Marine's a rifleman. You learn how to, you're going through the school of infantry. They'll teach you that. Then they might specialize you into, you're now a machine gunner, or, you're a mortarman, or you're the light anti-tank weapons guy. They'll pay for that. But they're not going to be like, yeah, your first 4 years, hey, you're I'm gonna send you to infantry school, and then we're gonna send you to something else. We're gonna send you into another job without getting our money's worth in your primary MOS. Another possibility is they could send you for training to, if you're a grunt or you're comms, you're a grunt, they might send you off to a comms school, right? You get some OJT, you learn how to use comms. or you're sent to the battalion motor pool for like a month and you learn to drive a Humvee, stuff like that. That's cross training. That really doesn't count. That's OJT, on the job training. Doesn't really count, but that's the kind of training you could see. But they're not going to send you to do a whole new MOS. Like, again, that's kind of one of the things that they like to use for reenlistment for the good troops is they go, hey, you want to, you're a truck driver now. You want to go to Intel? You want to do that? Well, we'll send you to do some Intel. We'll send you to Intel school if you sign up another 4-year contract. Stuff like that happens. Or they'll send you to, they'll send you to get your fucking jump wings or something like that. It's an enticement. It's a benefit. It's something that they can use to entice you to re-up. That's all that is.
I mean, if you're coming from being a civilian your entire life, there are no jobs you can look to and think, yeah, it'll be just like that, just in the military. I mean, maybe some unique exceptions, but for the majority of the force, you're entering a new world in terms of how things are done, the structure, the expectations, etc. I wish there was a statistic out there of how many people leave the Army because they don't like their specific job. It's got to be hard to measure because the idea of changing MOSs tends to be so daunting that most soldiers and officers just settle in,
That's true. Most officers and most enlisted do settle into their MOS and they don't want to change. They don't want to go through schooling because you might be, say, you might be a sergeant. You might have been a truck driving sergeant, right? And now you're going to a new MOS and sure, you're a sergeant in rank, but you're a fucking boot. You don't know what the fuck, that Lance Corporal who's been in the fleet for 2 years at doing this MOS knows more than you do. You kind of stick with the MOS if you're going to keep going through because you don't want to feel like the new guy. You don't want to be the boot, right? You don't want to be going in and having to go, hey, Lance Corporal, how do I do this? How do I do that? You're a fucking sergeant. You should know. Look here, motherfucker. Right? You don't want to be that guy. It's a pride thing. I get that. But I don't know. And how many troops get out of the Army or the Marines or the Navy or the Air Force because they don't like their job? Well, after the first 4 years, the vast majority of troops, they don't re-enlist. It's not because they hate the job necessarily. It's because they only plan to do 4 years to begin with. For many of them, they get what they want after 4 years. They get college paid for. They get benefits. They might get disability. There's a bunch of things. They get bonuses on the civil service exam, shit like that. They get preferential hiring, stuff like that. That's how it is.
This is my life now. There are programs to change MOS on the enlisted side and a branch transfer on the officer side, but it's not that simple, or at the very least, it could be a lot easier. The standard process now is that you usually have to go back through some sort of modified advanced individual training for that specific skill set. It's usually a few months, but even getting approved to do that can be a pretty serious challenge. So let's look at a way to clear the path for soldiers to make.
It is. It is very difficult to get the go ahead because that training, I believe, comes out of the battalion's budget. I don't believe it's a service budget. I believe it comes out of the battalion's budget. I could be wrong. I might be wrong on that one. I'd have to look it up, but it is very difficult to get permission to go through because it doesn't stop at the battalion level. It has to go up to regiment and higher. I think it is actually service budget that does it. Point is that it is a difficult thing. And not everybody is selected for it. It's very difficult if you want to get into something such as MECEP, the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Program, or the other MECEP, Marine Enlisted Commissioning Education Program. It is a fucking fight to be recognized for that. If you want to get into a new MOS, for example, you want to go counter intel or intel in general from another MOS, you have to fight for that. You have to be shit hot. You have to have pros and cons out the ass. You have to show that you are shit hot. You are good to go. You are not going to be a drain on the finances or the training. And that even if you are a sergeant who goes through the modified training, you're still going to be with lance corporals and privates and stuff like that. You still have to set a good example as an NCO, even though you're a student, because even though you're a student, you're still a sergeant. The military's not going to want to waste money. They want you to prove your worth. They want you to prove that you are worth the effort, the time, and the fiscal expenditure that they are going to put on you. That's not unacceptable, in my opinion. You have to be a net benefit for the service. You can't be a net drain on the service. No company is going to be like, oh, well, you're a net drain. You want to go do something else at our expense? Yeah, we'll do that. No company is going to do that in the private sector. This guy runs his own business. If he had a shit bag, right, that, maybe the shit bag is like their diversity hire, diversity in terms of being a fucking shit bag, like nothing more. Okay. Maybe he's just lazy as shit, but he's the diversity hire. Maybe he's the guy that, all the new guys, the supervisors take the new guys aside and go, don't be like him. He's a shitbag. No one likes him. Okay. Maybe that's his purpose. But that shitbag ain't going to do anything other than the bare minimum. So he's not going to get more than the bare minimum. That's how it is. You have to prove yourself. You can't just come in and take. You have to give. You have to prove that you're worth it. And I don't like this way that he's going with this argument. We need to make it easier to change your MOS. I don't think we do. Personal experience. I saw a terrific fucking Marine in Motor T. Smart as me. Motor T is retarded as shit. We are jokingly, but not really, referred to as ASVAB waivers. We are fucking retarded. But it was a guy who was shit hot, one of the best I had seen. He was like, hey, I want to go to Intel. They sent him to Intel because he had the scores. He had the work ethic. He'd been in the fleet for 2 years. Hadn't even finished his contract. I think they made him extend his contract like 2 more years, but they still sent him to do it. It happens. You, again, have to prove yourself. I don't think we need to make it easier. I do think, though, that we do need to recognize more the good troops. And I think this is kind of the problem with the whole concept of promotions is that, part of it is a meritocracy, but a lot of it is also based on time and grade. Seniority. Shit hot troops are sometimes passed over for less than shit hot troops, but they've been in that rank for longer. The list is just, if you got you have meritorious promotions, don't get me wrong. You have stuff like that, but it's like one guy in a battalion that gets it. A battalion of 700 people, one guy might get that meritorious promotion. Kind of sucks. I think part of the thing that we need to do is we need to look at and encourage troops to be better. But the problem is, and I'm not going to play any more of this. I think part of the problem is that initial experience that you get as an E1 to even an E4, because you know what, the problem really is that experience, that initial experience that you get for the first 2 to 3 years that you're in the military, because you are bottom man on the totem pole. You are the guy who all the shit jobs go to you because you have no seniority. You are put on every shit duty possible. KP duty. You have to do all the, field exercises and all that shit. It sucks. Again, you have to prove yourself. But that experience where, you might be voluntold more times than anybody else. Had it happen to me for a couple of months where I was voluntold to do a bunch of shit. And I was like, God fucking damn it. Right. I saw other guys who had far worse than me. Okay. Usually you piss somebody in power off and they were like, oh, okay, I'll fuck with you now. It happens. Right. I don't know how you do it though, is the problem. It's not supposed to be, it's not supposed to be easy. We're not supposed to be, the military is not supposed to be welcoming to everybody. It's not supposed to be a, it's not a social club. It should be very selective. But I think in becoming as selective as we have, we've done it in such a way that, like, senior officers and senior NCOs, they're more focused on their promotions, their career, than they are on the troops for the most part. And as an officer, my troops are a reflection of me. My troops are a reflection of me. If they're shit hot, probably because I'm shit hot too. Now, to be fair though, it's probably because I told, I stand back and let the NCOs do their thing because NCOs are the backbone of the services. It's how it is, right? But they're a reflection of me. And if they're shitbags, well, gosh darn it, maybe I needed to get involved. And maybe I needed to correct stuff. Maybe I need to take those NCOs aside and be like, hey, what the fuck's going on here? Right? Correct the NCOs, because a lot of the times it's the officers and the NCOs are the problem. It's not, you have to motivate the troops. My first unit, after I left this, once I entered the fleet, my first unit was shit. They were god awful. I fucking hated it there. And, our NCOs, they were all babies. When I say that, I mean, they all of them had less than 2 years in the fleet before they were promoted to corporal. So they really didn't have that learning curve. Most of them were less than 18 months. But they didn't have that learning, what it means to be a leader. And they were very much selfish. I remember the first week I was there. The battalion, the platoon, I should say, not the battalion, platoon had just come off of being fucked with because our gunny was just off the drill field. He was at PI, just came off the drill field, and he was on everybody's ass because he's lived 3-4 years as a DI, and he's still in that mindset as he enters the fleet because there's really no transition. It's like you're PCSing out of being a drill instructor, have fun, and you get to the new command, and you're like, this is what I've known for 4 years. This is what I'm comfortable with, and I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna treat them all like this. And they had just spent a month being fucked with because they weren't up to his standards as a DI. The weekend I got there, the corporals, they threw a party at the pavilion behind the barracks, and some of the underage Marines got drunk with them. At the time, the drinking age had just been lowered to 20, and some of the 18 and 19-year-olds went out and drank with them. And one of the guys, he was like, I feel bad. Don't know why, but he was like, I feel, I'm guilty. And he went up and he told the sergeant who was there with them, who was drinking with them, I was underage drinking. And unfortunately, the gunny fucking overheard that. He's like, I'm fucking sorry. What was that? And so he comes down. He's like, all of you who are underage, like the sergeant came down and was like, all of you who are underage and drinking, get the fuck up to the classroom. Get the fuck up there. And the NCOs let those non-rates take the fall for it and didn't say a fucking thing. Despite the fact the NCOs had given them alcohol and knew they were underage. NCOs stood back and said, I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want to be fucked with. That's not that's demotivating. To watch your NCOs leave you out to fucking dry because they don't want to get into trouble. They fucked up, but they're like, I'm not saying a thing. That's fucked up. It's fucked up when that happens. And if you're new to the fleet, you're just starting, you just left, you've heard all this positive stuff about you get out of training and hey, guess what? Guess what? You get into the fleet, it's so much better. You're not treated like a child, right? You're treated like an actual man or woman. And then, hey, you see something like that happen. And you wonder why people might get out after 4 years. Because you might draw the fucking short straw and get 2 or 3 units in a row that are shit like that. And you're just like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm done with the stress. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's a possibility. I was very lucky. I had good officers. I had good staff NCOs. Yes, that gunny who was off the drill field was one of the best fucking staff NCOs I ever served with. One of the best. Once he calmed down, once we started pumping him full of horse tranquilizers so he would calm the fuck down, he was one of the best. In fact, he's a lawyer now. He's a fucking lawyer now. I was not expecting that. He seemed a little special. I was always having to proofread stuff, but apparently he's actually really fucking smart. So, hey, there we go. You know, maybe the reason that we don't have the retention that we could is because of that experience. User experience in everything really dictates how successful something is. Just saying, user experience dictates how successful something is. And it falls on the officers and the NCOs especially. NCOs mainly, okay? Officers, we tell you what to do, right? NCOs, you get it done. It's always going to be like that. The NCOs are the backbone of the services. The Pacific, right? Chesty Polar says, the orders will come from up high, but it'll be you, the NCOs, with the blood on your trousers and the sweat on your brow. You will have won this war. And it's the truth. The NCOs are the backbone of every fucking service. And I'm talking specifically sergeants and corporals, or the petty officers in the Navy. Yes, staff sergeants and gunnies and first sergeants, master sergeants, they have their purpose, but the backbone really is those sergeants and corporals. Maybe we should look at that. Maybe we should look at that user experience, because yes, we want to weed out the weak, but how many of them aren't weak? They just don't want to deal with the bullshit all the time. I can't tell you how many times I was told, hey, we need to get this done. We're going to do it this way. And I'd be like, this seems like a better way. Can we try that? And they'd be like, no, I'm higher ranked than you. We're doing it this way because I'm stuck in my ways. And it's even worse because then you do it their way and something goes wrong and they blame it on you because, gosh darn it, I've been in the Marine Corps for 12 years. And for fuck's sake, this is how it's always been. It's always worked. But I'm not going to listen to you because you've been in a hot minute. You don't know what you're talking about. Because there's this belief that rank means that you're more intelligent or some shit like that. I don't fucking know anymore. Some of the smartest people I ever met were second lieutenants and, E1s to E3s. Some of the dumbest people I ever met had fucking eagles on their collar. Just how it is. Okay. So yeah, that's going to be the stream. We've been going almost 2.5 hours now. I think I'll probably stream Friday. And that stream, if I stream on this channel, we'll be going over the Nick. Actually, really quickly, I want to check something. We'll be going over the Nick Rekieta filing. I don't think Schneider has filed anything. Yeah, no, he hasn't. So we'll go over that. Or if I do gaming on Rumble, we might do some of that. I might actually do a bit of gaming on Rumble later on tonight. I don't know. Maybe do a late night stream, gaming, boot up DDO or something. I don't know, but we'll see. And so enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week. If you I almost started to say, if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe. But no, if you like this kind of stuff, see a psychiatrist, because there's something very wrong with you. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. I'll see you guys Friday. Oh no, Friday. I just thought of that. Friday is the Path of Exile League start. Ooh. Okay, so if I do stream, we're gonna be streaming Path of Exile, definitely. Not gonna be sorry, Nick. Sorry, Mark. Your brief was Chef's Kiss butts. Path of Exile is more important. So you guys have a good one. I am Spectre. Thanks for watching.